a direct correlation. They had 4 incubators, 3 of which didn't work, and when the 4th one doesn't work, all the newborn babies that are under a certain age die. And they can't do anything about it. So the connection between our ability to help them with technology, to give them a training course, would be incredibly important. They have ultrasound machines, but they don't know how to use them. So we could give them a very simple course in the basics of ultrasound. But while we were there was a woman whose baby had died. They were going to send her an hour away to get an ultrasound to prove the baby had died. They had an ultrasound machine right there. So we could teach them that they could then keep and improve the care for the limbs. 3 pages full of absolute necessities, including the stethoscopes, which we did send, the blood pressure cuffs, which are incredibly important. And to them, that is their tool that they go into the field with. Stethoscope around their neck, and a blood pressure cuff, and a big bottle of iron tablets and anti-malarial medicine, and that's about all we had. And that's a good picture of Caitlin doing that. Every single medical human resource, medical, surgical, gynecologic consultants, auto mechanics, because if the cars don't run, the ambulance doesn't drive, the women can't go to the hospital and they die. Just anecdotally, on the way back from the Capitol, the hospital ambulance that we in died about a mile from the hospital, and so we got up, pushed the last mile. Luckily, the road was nice and flat, but it was dirt. Every other specialty that you can imagine is urgently needed, and that's the main teaching hospital. And we were going to a rural hospital 2 hours away on a dirt road. So, some pictures of teaching. Dr. Azadeh, who's Iranian, who was the head of obstetrics. They have 3 obstetricians in the country. 2 are Cuban and 1 is Iranian. It should be noted that the Cuban government sends physicians to Gambia, much like we send people from the Peace Corps. And they should be given credit, though I'm sure that there's an ulterior motive for sending the Cuban physicians. But if it wasn't for the Cuban physicians, there would not be physicians there. And I think there's an opportunity for us to be ambassadors, educational ambassadors, much like the Cuban government sends their physicians. I thought also it was interesting, and I have a picture, I think, on the far right. It wasn't all drudgery. It was very hot. But Dr. Garcia and Dr. Dora are 2 of the doctors. She's family. He's the director of obstetrics. He lives in Cuba. I was at a meeting 90 miles from his home. But I can't visit him, he can't visit me. But if we each travel 12,000 miles, we can be colleagues. And I referred him patients from Suleiman Junking to the main hospital for him to operate on. And then this was the dinner after I had been referring him patients. And I wrote him little notes that patients were coming, and we were talking about that, we're all the same on the inside. And we can be colleagues as long as the politics aren't there. And he did like beer, too. So. They did have PowerPoints. They don't have a slide projector, so they just projected on the wall. The other interesting thing is that the room has what looks like an air conditioner there, but they don't work. The windows were open, and there was a big curtain across the window. We wanted a little air, so I moved the curtain, and it turned out that's where the mosquitoes hatch. So it was an interesting opportunity for us to have medical talks at. They were very interested in working. One of the emails from their IT tech, they have a computer lab. It's 7 old computers. Every piece of equipment in the room, which we're trying to get TechServe to come take, is newer and better than every piece of equipment in the medical school computer laboratory. They have 1 IT tech who moonlights on the side, and so I think that the IT department, computer science people, could dramatically increase the ability of their students to be educated. That's a picture of the hospital. That's a picture of the solar array that was funded through the work of Power Up Gambia, which I think is doing a remarkable job. They're going to move on to some other hospitals, and other hospitals need the work. But this allows for the special areas of the hospital, the pediatric area, the blood bank, and some areas to have electricity 24/7. If you don't have electricity at all when the generator breaks, then all the blood in the blood bank goes away, and all your medicines that need refrigeration go bad. And if you have a baby who's on a ventilator, the baby dies. So the connection between electricity and technology and life and death is a one-to-one connection. That's a picture of the local taxi called Gelly Gelly, which I did not ride in. And the women outside the hospital, and the dirt road outside the hospital, and the fact that there will be a road. While I was there, there was not a road paved, and I am told by Lonnie, who's from Christiana Hospital, who was there in January, that the road is now paved to the hospital. So part of the reason that it takes a long time is the road is very bumpy, the axles break on the cars, and you go about 25 kilometers an hour. It takes a really long time to get to the next place that you can get care. There is not running water. It turns out that when the sun's hot enough for long enough, the solar energy will run the well, and water automatically comes out of this broken faucet. So the first time we went to scrub, there was no running water, and there's another picture I think Caitlin has in her set of the scrub nurse who pumps the water and pours it over your hands as you scrub, because there's no running water. The next time we came to 2 days later, I was shocked to see water coming out of the faucet, but you can't turn it on and off. It just comes on or it goes off. And so one of the things that we need engineers for is that if they could simply fix the plumbing that they have, they could store the water when they don't need it. Otherwise, it just runs out, and then when it's out, it's out. We also realized that we needed to go to the well and fill up our buckets before it got dark, because once it's dark, there's no water. So Dr. Jones is on the left here. He's 70. I wish I could be so cheerful and so expert as to come on a Saturday and operate on 8 people for free on Saturdays, which is what he does. And learning from him was a wonderful opportunity. And Osmond is our nurse anesthetist. This is Caitlin dispensing medication. The only 2 medicines we had were iron and anti-malarial medications, which we gave to everybody, and everybody drank from the exact same paper cup. And the high-tech maternity care, this is actually a piece of rope which Caitlin had in her kit, which we measured using the toolkit from the we serve, measured in centimeters, and then gave to the nurse midwife because they had no way of measuring or estimating the number of weeks of gestation of the pregnancies. They simply did it with their hands and wrote down what they thought. In my hand here, I'm also holding the fetoscope, which is a very inexpensive rudimentary plastic fetoscope. They have an electronic Doppler. It's actually a vascular Doppler, but it has the wrong head on it to listen to baby. But they don't use it. And I said, oh, well, because you only have one, you don't want it to break. He said, no, it's because we only have one battery. And one 9-volt battery in the hospital. So I just, how many times have we gone back past the rack with, 4 9-volt batteries for $10? So I immediately went to, Home Depot when I got home, and I bought 9-volt batteries, and I told Caitlin I was going to send a care package with batteries for their Doppler and a bunch of other things, until I found out that to send 4 batteries is about $400. It's very expensive. This was just to remind us that not only we serve, but tech serve is important, and also the students who are going, I believe, will each be able to take 2 freshly repaired tablets donated by the medical school.
With batteries or without batteries?
Sorry?
With batteries or without batteries?
Well, with rechargeable batteries. Rechargeable batteries. And we'll be able to leave them again. I think that we'll need to make sure that we designate where we want them to go appropriately. But one of them is currently running the library at the Sullivan-John King Regional Hospital, so the medical students can actually have access, and Caitlin created a database for that. So I think that'll be useful. This is one of the computers. This is Zane's computer, actually, which was donated to Mr. Ba. Do you remember working on that one? Yeah. And he's very appreciative of that. Osman, who is the nurse anesthetist and who runs the hospital, sent me these are some emails appreciating from them. I'll end with just a little medicine. Maternal mortality in the Gambia. Gambia is part of sub-Saharan Africa with the worst maternal mortality in the world. Simple things that we could do would have a dramatic effect, and a much greater effect in a place where the risk is terribly high than it would be, for instance, in Philadelphia. Tomorrow, as I told Chairman Strother, I go to the medical examiner's office tomorrow, and I work with the medical examiner here in Philadelphia to review maternal deaths in Philadelphia. Our rate is relatively high for the United States, and yet is still insignificant compared to the number of women who die. The chance in a woman's lifetime that she'll die in childbirth in Gambia is something like 1 in 45. So the chance in the developing world that a woman will die in childbirth is 1 in tens of thousands. And so it is a very real worry that when you become pregnant, you know someone in your village or someone in your family who has died giving childbirth. The director of the hospital, RBTH, is a gentleman named Mamadi Cham, who we met when we were there, and his thesis work was about the problem with rural Gambia and the transport of women to the teaching hospitals. So the idea that we could teach non-physicians how to do low-risk cesarean deliveries using technology we developed here at Drexel, which is consistent with one of the Gates Foundation grants for the use of biomedical engineering to help improve the plight of women and children in the United States, is a really exciting opportunity for us to do. A 2-hour drive from a woman bleeding to death means that she dies. And there are people there who can we could teach how to do simple low-risk cesarean delivery and save lives, and we could save lives starting this year if we're able to do that. A very nice slide, which I did not put together. This is reducing maternal and neonatal mortality in the Gambia, with examples of the 3 delays. But the 3 delays is failure to seek medical care, failure to make the diagnosis, and failure to timely transport the patient. So if you have no confidence that once you get to the doctor they're going to do anything, you don't go to the doctor. And if when you go to the doctor, all you do is get sick and die, you don't want to go to the hospital because that's where people go to die. So there's an entire disruption of the normal system. And I will just tell you that one of the areas in which we interface with some of the women come from Africa at Drexel is there's a group of women from West Africa who have had female genital mutilation, or FGM. In Gambia, about 85% of the women have had female genital mutilation in some fashion. It is the majority of the women, and it is an issue for delivery because what happens is they're very scarred when they come to delivery. And some of the pictures, which I'm not going to show you, are the pictures of the women who were scarred. It then creates a risk for the babies. The babies die in utero because they can't come out. And so one of the doctors, Dr. Azadeh, who is the gentleman from Iran, has developed a technique where he takes the babies who have been mutilated or scarred, and then under anesthesia corrects the scarring so that they can then have safe deliveries. And he sent me his work as one of his, he did a presentation in the British Journal of Medicine. And also Dr. Garcia, who's the gentleman who was drinking beer with us, has a special technique for low-tech cesarean section. I mean, not low-tech, meaning less instruments. So you can use finger dissection to get the baby out quickly. And so 2 of our medical colleagues have already begun to interact with us in a medical environment. And he apologizes for the gross pictures, but he wants very much to continue to interface with us. So I think that the idea that we could participate across the whole university, whether it's chemical engineering or electrical engineering or biomedical engineering, whether it's medicine or law or the School of Public Health, whether it's our specialists in malaria or HIV/AIDS, both of whom are very strong with our medical school, whether it's our nursing school or our PA school. Unfortunately, Lonnie's not here. She's a PA who works at Christiana, who goes and works there. I think we have an opportunity to interface with the University of the Gambia, with the people of the Gambia, in a way that enriches us, me personally, enriches my family, enriches our university, enriches our city. And it may be, like they said about the Quakers who came through, when they came to do good, did well. It may be that if we go there and are doing good, that we also may find business opportunities. That's not why I went, but I think that we have an opportunity to do good. And I encourage all of you to keep going and doing this program, and hopefully we'll see more people from the medical school. And I will spare you the pictures, but if you want to see them, they're available. So thank you very much. I'll take questions during the
Thank you very much, Dr. Montgomery. And as again, looking at that list of urgent needs at the beginning of the presentation, you can see that there is vast opportunity for anybody from Drexel to participate in this program at many different scopes, many different levels. And as it turns out, I mentioned earlier, we have 3 students going to the Gambia next week. 2 of them are from the physics department. There is a process for application. You have to qualify, and once you've done all of that, you have to tell us what your contribution to the program will be, because what we want to do is have you take what you're learning at Drexel, go out there, have the real world, real life experiences, come back and continue to work on that through your Drexel projects, whether that be your junior or senior design projects or your master's thesis, whatever the case may be. But there is lots of opportunity, and I'll talk more about it at the end. But I want to say, when Caitlin left, I was, of course, as the manager of the program, I was nervous sending her over there, and I was really thrilled to know that her dad was going to be with her when she first went. But nonetheless, I said, Caitlin, make sure you keep emailing me so I know what you're doing and I know what you need, and let's stay in communication. So her first email comes in to me and she says, Sharon, I'm sorry, it's taken me so long to send out this email, but I've had an amazing experience. I was in the hospital and I was looking at these incubators and I'm seeing babies die around me. And it just, even now, it gives me goosebumps to think about it. And having that email, she said, there's just no power around here, and everything is a struggle. And I said, forget it, Caitlin, you don't have to email me. Use that power for what's really necessary to use it for. But she has had an amazing experience, and I'd like you to hear about it from her, obviously. But thank you for sharing.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone again for staying around. I know it's kind of a long day, and I was really lucky that my dad did get to go with me, and we had kind of a similar experience for the first week I was there. But I was also very lucky that he left. I had a very different experience once he left. So I'll try to skip over the parts where we were to get, like, I don't want to reiterate what he already said, but this is the first day where we were in the RVTH, and like my dad said, this is Kebabaji and Dr. Nam. And he said something on that very first day that kind of just stuck with me even now. And he said, biomedical engineering is the bloodstream of a hospital, and that it doesn't matter how many doctors you have, if they don't have the equipment they need, then the hospital doesn't run. And these are the examples that they gave about the incubators and the oxygen concentrators, that they have 5, 6, 7 of them, but only one works. And if all 7 of them worked, that's 6 more people that they could be saving every single day. So from the very first day I was there, it became so real to me that biomedical engineering and our major is like life-saving, and that we can do something. And I feel like sometimes we don't get to see that in our classes when you're struggling to solve a problem, or you're doing this electronics lab and you don't see the end, the purpose. From the very first day, I could finally make the connection. I really feel like since I went over there as a co-op and with this external education, it was really evident to me. So again, I got to go on the tours of the different educational facilities with my dad, and I was really impressed by these students. They were making these presentations. They don't have any textbooks, and they have to pay per minute for the internet. And these presentations were fantastic. My dad said they could even go to school here and just do just as well as the students here. So that was incredibly motivating to me to see such passionate students that have nothing and are still giving everything they have. And as a student, that was inspirational. I got to oversee some of the surgeries. We do post-op rounds. There's kind of a comical story is that I had a headache in the morning before post-op rounds, and I took 2 Advil before we went. And these men who had just had hernia operations the day before, we found out that the medication that they were given was 200 milligrams of ibuprofen. And so that kind of felt guilty. I had just taken that much for a headache, and here they are in the post-op. So that was pretty incredible. Again, I got to work with the nurses. I got to have these 2 experiences. One, with the hospital, working with the staff, working with my dad, and then when he left, doing the engineering side of our degree. So here's my dad with the ultrasound, and this was the point where he said, you need to know how to do these basic things. And I think that that's something that we serve students can do. We can, learn how to do something, go over there and teach them. I think that these Trek teams, what Keba talked about in his speech was that, they send ambulances out to more rural areas to keep the amount of people out of the main hospital. And you have this team here on the left, and they're there for a whole day's work. They don't stop. They don't stop until every single woman is seen. And you can see the waiting line. There's hundreds and hundreds of women because the president just gave all pregnant women and children under the age of 5 free health care. So they work until every single woman is seen, and it's a really long day. And I really applaud them, and it was a pretty amazing experience, I think, for us to to see the need and I think that this is an opportunity for the students to come up with, innovation, because here we are in just a house, and my dad showed you the tools that they're using are a piece of rope from my luggage and a plastic, what was it called? Fetoscope. And so, there's opportunities to help these people that are living further away, even from a rural hospital. So then, finally, my dad left me, and I was okay, and I had friends, and I started my real engineering work. And so here I am with Sekou, who is a boy that's even younger than us, who I know has become my friend and also the friend of the boys that went before me. He is kind of the shining star for the hospital because he's learning how to fix medical. He's continuing his education, which he doesn't even have the money for, and he's actually being supported by the research students because he's our friend, and he sends us emails, thanking us so much because, this is what he wants, and he doesn't have any tools. He's just really inspired, from within, and, he told me that the only reason they know how to fix medical equipment is because Drexel students are going over there and teaching them. And so then again, you just realize what you're doing is so important. Here, he is a young boy, the only one that's capable of fixing the medical equipment. The only reason he knows how is because Drexel students are going over and teaching him how to do it. And so that was really touching. And you can see the workspace is kind of small. They don't really have anything. And this is the toolkit that the research students will bring over, which to them is like a treasure chest. On the right is when I went to the Medical Research Council, which is when you said the New York of, it was like cheating. It's not really even like you're in Africa anymore because they have power, they have ice cream, they have, so I got to stay with them for a week and work with their biomedical engineers, and I'll talk a little bit about it later. So here again, I'm in the MRC. I got to learn about the different things that they're doing. I also got to see a tour of all the equipment they're working with, and they're really the drivers for infectious disease research. Here's the team of the biomedical engineers and the head of biomedical engineering. And I say extreme engineering because Shauna, who is the head biomedical engineer, wrote this paper about how these engineers started in the same situation where the engineers at the Sloan & Duncan and RVTH are at. Just one room, no equipment, no education, nowhere to go. And they turned it all around. They, of course, had a lot more funding because they're funded through Europe. But, now they have a workspace that's as big as this room, and half of it is just extra equipment so that none of the projects are delayed. And so it was really incredible. And so I have that paper if anyone wants to read it. So after being shocked at our first RVTH visit about the oxygen concentrators and how they have 5 but only 1 works and the babies are dying, my dad said, you have to learn how to fix an oxygen concentrator and go back and fix them. So at the MRC, they actually did their oxygen concentrator presentation for me, and they taught me how to use it, and then I in turn went to the hospital we're working with, the Sloan & Duncan General Hospital, and taught Alou, who's another engineer there. So that was the work that I did, but I also gained a lot of other things. I made a lot of international relationships. Like my dad said, the Cuban doctors, I would have never been able to talk to them about their experience unless, I traveled all the way there. I met, these are volunteers from Scotland that built a birthing house. I met tons of medical students that were on medical electives that I still talk to. Just recently we all met up in Scotland actually, and continue to talk about the work that they're doing. I had some additional projects. Mr. Baji had asked me to make a database of all the books that they had for the library. They had this wonderful library and books that were donated from the US, but they weren't letting anyone use them because they knew as soon as somebody took one, they would never bring it back. And so, I spent a couple of days just making this database of all the books that they have. And the best part is that they have tons and tons of textbooks. And, like I mentioned before, you have the medical students at RVTH who don't have any textbooks. And so here they are, and now hopefully we can kind of make this connection so they can start using them. That would be really great. And these are the donated laptops, again, by Texer, who my dad talked about. And They actually have this one now for the library, and they have another one for the biomedical engineers that I put all the information that I brought, some like troubleshooting information and things like that. But there's tons of opportunities for continued projects. This was a training for secretaries run by 2 women from Europe, and I think that, like I said, that's something that our students can do. We can train their engineers, or how to troubleshoot simple equipment that we're learning how to work on. I also made a complete equipment inventory of every single piece of equipment they had in the hospital, so that we can, from here, help them manage their equipment. We know if they say number 74 oxygen concentrator is broken, we know what kind it is, we know what it needs. So you can see Alu and I, we're really like digging down, getting, finding this old equipment, some like even like hand pump, suction pumps, some stuff that was really old, but so that was quite a project for me. I think 2 engineering problems that they really face is that they have lots of damaged equipment, but they don't have any other choice but to use it. So this is an autoclave for sheets, and it's a German machine. They don't have a manual, they don't understand, but they know that when this reset button goes off and the light goes on, they have to hit reset. And they just a person just sits there all day hitting reset until the sheets are clean. And so, for me being an engineer, like, obviously this machine is broken and something's wrong, but they don't have any other choice but to use it. So I'm hoping by this inventory that we have now, we can get all the manuals for them and start solving some of the problems that they have. The other issue just I think in Africa, or especially in Gambia specifically, is that there's just trash everywhere. People just throw their trash on the ground. There's nowhere for the trash to go, no collection. And so the same thing happens with medical equipment, and there's just rooms and rooms of medical equipment. I think that's maybe something that the students can address, like how can we help them, what can we do with this? We donated, here's Kaba again, we donated, like we said, the stethoscopes, blood pressure cuffs, scrubs, really anything that we knew that could help them. This is a picture of a multi-tool that my dad gave me to help me survive, and at the end of my trip I gave it to Alu, who's the head engineer, and he cried because he has no equipment, and now he has at least a screwdriver, a ply, or something, and so that just shows you like how in need they are. Here's the workshop where we're fixing medical equipment, and this is my friend Jane working in the lab. So these are opportunities for students who, if you want to work in a lab, you want to work in engineering, you really can get to do both on these kinds of opportunities. I also went back to RBTH just to meet with the biomedical engineers, talk to them about their needs. Again, they only have one autoclave, and if it doesn't clean everything that they need, if they don't have enough sterile padding or gauze, then they just cancel surgeries. They can't do them, and just another way people are dying. But this is something that we as students can help them, and you can have a direct effect on saving people's lives. And then, just finally to sum it up, this is the first time I ever lived abroad, and there was a lot of culture shock, and I felt like I lived a different life. I learned so much more than just the medicine, so much more than just the engineering. I learned this beautiful and rich culture. I got to go to the Muslim praying grounds during Tabaski. I had 3 different host families, Mr. Baji, Mr. Ba in Bacau, and also in the village next to where I live. They cooked me dinner almost every day. Obviously football was a lot of fun. It's like what everybody does. I got to see a lot of football games. I got to
Football.
Well, yes.
I really became part of the family of this family that lived next to the hospital. I helped them carry water, even though you can see they're pretty worried that I will probably drop it. I got to cook. I played games. It was really wonderful to be accepted. And you can see my African dresses. I was part of the culture too, is going out, getting the fabric and getting it made. And the dress I'm wearing today is also African inspired. This was Yamisu, who ended up being my best friend, who lives in next to the village next to the hospital. And these are the computers again from TechServe, and we're teaching her computer skills. And they eventually, like my dad was saying, the hospital just isn't a hospital. It's kind of the movie theater. People come and watch movies there. They have a they want to start, they have the library now, but they want to have a like computer lab where people can come and, you know, it's not just a hospital, it's a community center, and it's bringing everybody up. So we hope that with the continued donations of the laptops and TechServe, that we'll be able to help them do that. And I also tried to teach them about our cultures. And I was there for Christmas, well, right before Christmas, and so I had a big Christmas party at my house before I left, and I made a Christmas tree out of my green curtains, and you know, had cookies and wrapped up, you know, toys with plastic bags, and made what are they called, snowflakes, and had paints, and it was really a lot of fun. I know everyone really enjoyed it, and they painted a lot of messages to me, like, I don't want to get emotional, but like, you know, like, Kate and family forever, and like, we'll never forget you. But anyway, you can see from what my dad said and what I've said, there's really opportunity. There's so many things that we can do, and for every different major, and you can see that I've been touched by this experience, and I just want people to know that you can do something, like, even as a student.
Well, that would have been a hard act to follow, so it's like we kept two at the end there. But, so as you can see, and she said, you know, even as a student, and I think